Okay, so here you can see I already started this video a little late. I already started making this build, and I apologize for that. Try to do better next time. This is my first video I'm uploading on YouTube. Here you can see I'm testing the minigun. I've already placed the cockpit area down. There is a single seat in there right now. I have built several helicopters at this point. I've built an AH-64 Apache. It was my first one I have spent some time on. I also built a UH-60 Seahawk, which is the naval version of the Black Hawk. And I built a Chinook, as pretty much everybody does in this game. Those are the easiest helicopters to build. Here you see me working on the rotor housing. You'll see many changes of this come, not many, but a couple changes come here with the intake and the rotor housing, as well as the turbine exhaust. A lot of this game is placing blocks and seeing if it looks right, seeing if you like it, and finding out that it doesn't look good, so you change it, replace it with something else, find things that work best, and find things that fit best. I've also made a OH-58 and an OH-58D Kiowa and a Kiowa Warrior. I did that because a friend of mine is in the Army, and I talked to him about this game a lot, and he said I should make that helicopter, so I did. Here I'm working on what is pretty much the final iteration, with maybe one more change after this, of the intake. You see this giant open area here. A lot of people like to fill these in to reduce aerodynamic drag in the game. With helicopters, I find you'll see when I start adding in the helicopter engines, you need this area to counteract the torque of the helicopter engine. I'll explain that further as we reach that point. Oddly enough, I already tried a different recording software. And it didn't record my voiceover, so I'm trying this one out. Hopefully this works. Here you can see I added a NOR gate on those hinges to get a upward tilt of that exhaust. If you notice any pictures of the AH1 Cobra, which is what this is, that exhaust has an upward tilt, kind of like that. That is disabled in the final model, so it does not actually operate, but it does look the part, which is what I was looking for here. After I finished this video, was flying around, and I decided there's a couple of things I wanted to change on this. I measured it to size with my Apache, and it was being a little shorter than I wanted it to, so I added some length to the tail, and I added a little bit of length to the front cockpit area. 2 blocks forward basically, and 4 blocks backwards. In case you didn't know, a 4-length section of block is about 1 meter long from what I understand, and there's about a 7-foot distance in dimension in length between the Apache and the Cobra. Cobra is quite a narrow helicopter. This one ended up being extremely light. Which was good because it doesn't take that much lift, and it works great for the 2-prop blade that these things have. A little tip, the spoilers, the original spoilers that came in the game, work great for helicopter blades if you turn them upside down. Here I'm just placing blocks, trying to figure out what I think looks best, what fits best. Is what this game is, just trying to get things to work, try and get things to fit. and make it look good. Apologies if you hear a couple of dogs in here. That's my pets. They like to hang around. It's that big, nice open area. Some helicopters, you need that to counteract the torque. So one of the tricks you can use is when you start adding in your helicopter blades, you want to do a single rotor instead of the dual counter-rotating blades, which a lot of people do. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Some looks pretty cool. I see some pretty amazing creations. But you can add in several counter-rotating helicopter engines to counteract the forces. Here you see me adding a tail. And this is one of those interesting things where you see it starts working perfectly and everything goes right and everything looks nice, but ends up not working good, and you'll see here in a minute what I'm talking about. See, everything looks good. I'm like, okay, cool, everything looks great there. Add a little more in, making it look nice. Everything looks great. Alright, we're going good. Closing up some gaps. You see me drop the build a bunch of times just to see how it spawns in and make sure everything works right. A trick to building more realistic builds is I look up whatever aircraft I'm building and I type in schematic after that. So this, I typed in AH1 Cobra schematic. You get a pretty decent front, side, and top view. If you get that, you can probably figure out how to build things. Some people do use a Lego builds, which also works. That's another way you can do this. I prefer looking at schematics. It's a little bit harder that way, but it does work out. This is my first YouTube video. Hopefully it turns out and everything works good and I can keep adding more in. Kind of sad I didn't get my AH64 builds or the other helicopter builds I have, because those ones were pretty fun to do. It is quite a process. This one took me about an hour and a half total to build. But even after this, I end up tweaking and changing things. I think my Apache is flying around for a while. Oh, here you're going to see what I mean when things work and then suddenly they don't. So all I do is add this tail section in. And it didn't really change much at all. It shouldn't have changed the way anything moved. But you'll see here now when I spawn it in, it doesn't work. So we got to go through some changes, trying to figure out what the heck's going on. Delete blocks, trying to figure out what's going on here. You'll see me add a piston in here to try and draw that tail up. Find out that it still doesn't work. I've also built self-built aircraft. I've built a Harrier jump jet. I got one of those made. You can see I realized I made a mistake on the tail. So there it is going up. I'm still not happy with it. I've also made an F-14. I've made an F-18. Made an Osprey. what I made an F16. Here I'm going to go through adding more to the tail. Eventually I get something that works. And it's all about trial and error here, trying to figure out what does work best. Loving these new blocks because you can do things like this and things seem to work okay. Helps out a lot with the building, that's for sure. More changes to the tail to be made. Trying to figure out what angles work best, what fits nice. There is a lot of trial and error, spawning in the build, figuring it out, testing again, testing more, until eventually you get something that looks good. I did notice after I built this and test flying and whatnot that I looked back at the pictures and there's a couple of small winglets on the tail, which ended up changing the flight characteristics of this particular helicopter. Here I am talking about the helicopter engines. You see I got 3 stacked there, and I'll add another one here in the inside the body down low that's not attached to anything. Here I'm testing out the rotation, make sure the spoilers are going the right way. Typically add about 7 spoilers, and there it goes. See, it looks like, and then I had one in the middle down there on the inside, not attached to anything except for on the top. Still too much counter rotation, so I'm going to lower speed and see that it looks better. So I'm going to so here's something another little trick of helicopters. Tail rotors, and they do help considerably with lift. My Apache and my Seahawk have about 5 or more tail rotors in them to help with the lift of the vehicle. Works great. You can hide them in there nicely. And I personally think it sounds better and looks better than gimbals. Here I am also testing out the speed of the rotors, trying to tune things in. One thing that happens is, I don't know if this is true with trailmakers or not, but normal helicopters, they have more lift on one side than the other, so they tend to roll on you. This is often counteracted by pitching the tail rotor to create a little bit of lift in the opposite direction. I don't know if this is true with this game or not, so we just add gyro stabilizers, as you'll see in a minute. I deleted one of the engines because I found out that it was unneeded. So here we're adding, I believe we're going to be adding in some more blocks to close off the cockpit area. Adding in yet more blocks to close out the cockpit area. Try to figure out the best way to attach everything here, the most efficient way to do it. Nothing's ever perfect here. Here we're adding the pitch stabilizers and the pitch controls. You end up tuning these quite a bit as you go through. My Apache, I spent months tuning it back and forth, trying to figure out what works best, and you still add more and more. I think I added a bunch of gyros to this after I recorded this video. I had a bunch of gyros, four gyros in the pitch location, I believe, with max strength and no input to improve flight characteristics as much as I could. Here you see me adjusting roll and adding a roll gyro. We're adding some yaw. So usually I make my helicopters, in the game at least, I like to have a little bit of roll with my yaw as I'm turning. It makes it feel a little more realistic. Makes it fly a little more agilely, I guess. I don't even know if agilely is a word. Adding in some rockets. You'll see me add a delay to these. If you hold down the button, you have this delay, and it tends to send them in sequence like that. Kind of fun little effect. Here we go for the tail rotor. Now, my tail rotors are essentially ineffective. I use oars, and they don't provide any force, but they do look pretty good for the part, and they look pretty close to the right size. It's not perfect, but you know, for this game it works and it looks really nice. Adding in the speed sensor for auto hover. This is all about balancing, getting things to work right, getting things to settle nicely. I'm pretty close to my final shape here. Like I said, I did add some length to this to make it a little bit longer, because I compared it to the size of my Apache and it was really tiny. So I added about 4 blocks to the tail, or four nubs, I guess you would call them, to the tail, and 2 nubs between the cockpit and the rotor housing there. Here you see me working on the cockpit. One thing trailmakers could do would be amazing is make the ability to have 2 decals on a block. That would be pretty freaking awesome if you ask me. Here I'm adding a gunner seat in. Later on, off camera, during some testing, I added a servo to the Gatling gun. That allows the gunner to rotate it left and right. Fortunately, I do not have any up and down movement on that one. The turret can be controlled by the gunner. The pilot can fire the weapons, but he cannot control the turret. I use a controller to play the game, so I have limited inputs. Here I am testing some decals out, trying to figure out what fits best, what looks nice. It's all about trial and error, folks. Trial and error. You'll find you'll place something down and, like, yeah, it looks great on one side, and you add another decal, and all of a sudden it doesn't really fit, so you got to change it. You'll see that here in a second. Figure out how to place this front decal down here. So this is my first YouTube video, so if you do watch this, you do like it, I appreciate it. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you would change. Tell me what you think about this build. Tell me if you think I should do more builds like this. I'll probably do a AH1 Huey eventually. Tell me what other aircraft you think I should make as well. You see where I did that change there, added that in, changed the position of that one decal. This is where adding a second decal on top of another one would be a wonderful thing, because I could finish off that line going down for the cockpit. Here you're going to see an annoying little problem I had, and a way to fix it. When I place this decal like this, and I go to copy it over, it doesn't want to flip the way it should. So I ended up rotating it 90 degrees, placing it on the other side like that. Over there, I'm going to do that, and then copy it over, and it flips it over. Let me add those pieces back in, paint them up, make them look good. I also did add some interior controls to these to make it look like an actual cockpit. Here you see me removing the controls from the gunner seat, so the gunner can only control the weapon systems. You will see me add a servo in this, but I didn't like the way it worked, so I ended up deleting that servo from the Gatling gun. Right here I'm trying to pigeon glitch two rockets together, and you'll see that it does not work. So I move it over a little bit, and it still doesn't work. So I really want 6 rockets on this thing, because I think 6 rockets works better than 4. 8 works best, I believe, but 6 is better than nothing. Sometimes you build things so much you kind of forget how things work sometimes. And that was me definitely doing that. Adding some paint. We'll add more decals here in a minute. Now I'm thinking about it, actually, I did miss a decal on the intakes. I should have added a black decal on the front of the intake there to make it look like an actual intake. Here I am changing the intake again, because I wasn't happy with it. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, as you build, you go through your build, you look at something and say, I don't really like the way that looks. It's too square, it's not shaped right, something needs to be changed. And in the end, it all looks better. Here's where I'm adding that servo to that, and then things tend to crash, so I'm not happy with it, so I end up removing it. But really what I ended up doing in the end is extending the nose out 1 block, getting rid of that piston, and just having the servo on there with a different setup. Well guys, this build's about almost over. Like I said, it was an hour and a half long, but I don't want to load an hour and a half long video as my first YouTube video. So maybe eventually I'll, if I get some legs, you guys want to see a slower build, more detailed build, I'll be more than happy to do that. Here I am testing the flight characteristics. Feel pretty happy with it. Adjusting the gyro strength some more. Stable hover, good flying, a little flip. It's all about testing and tuning. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, leave a comment, like the video, and I'll see you guys next time.